The sky over Dronus 9 was always dark. Thick clouds covered the twin moons, and the jungle below never saw light-only shades of gray, green, and fear. Every creature here knew one rule: do not challenge the apex predator. Kailari moved silently. Between thick black vines, her pale eyes scanning the mossy ground. She was a scout of the Relin alien race, known for their speed and silence. Her job today was simple: track the predator, map its territory, and return before nightfall. But something was wrong. The air smelled ... different. Not just danger, something worse. Burning flesh, she crouched low and touched the ground. Warm. Recently disturbed, tracks huge claw marks led toward a clearing. But then ... more tracks. Smaller, boot-shaped, human. Her heart raced. No human could survive here. This planet was death. Yet, the tracks were fresh and they walked side by side with those of the apex beast. She crept closer. The jungle opened slightly, revealing a clearing surrounded by sharp rocks and broken trees. And then she saw it. A fire. A real, open fire. Flames danced wildly, casting golden light onto a scene that made her eyes go wide with shock. A man, a human male. Muscular, dirty, scarred. Alive, he sat near the fire, holding a thick chunk of roasted meat. His face was calm, even relaxed. As he bit into it, blood dripping from the meat, steam rising in the cold air behind him. The body of the apex predator. Dead. Burned. Skinned. She froze. Her entire body stiffened. Her breath caught. No one know. One killed the apex predator of Dronus 9, not even her strongest warriors. And this ... this human didn't just kill it. He was eating it. Kailari crouched deeper into the brush, not daring to make a sound. Her people feared this creature like a god. They offered sacrifices to keep it away. It was the ghost of the jungle, the bringer of death. And here, it lay, its massive jaws cracked open, its black eyes lifeless. The human took another bite, wiped his mouth with the back of his arm, and reached for a bone to suck the marrow. Kailari had never seen anything like it. His armor was torn, made from scraps. His skin was bruised. One arm was wrapped in cloth, soaked in dried blood. But he looked calm, strong, unbothered by the danger that surrounded him. She tilted her head, confused. Was he mad? Suicidal? Or something worse? The human suddenly paused. Without turning, he spoke aloud. "You've been watching me for 10 minutes. Kailari's heart stopped. You gonna join me?" he added, "or keep hiding like a mouse?" She didn't move, didn't breathe. How did he know she was there? The human slowly turned his head and looked directly into the shadows where she hid. His eyes weren't glowing like hers. They weren't alien. But they burned with something else. Something wild. He tossed a bone toward her. It landed near her foot. "I've got enough meat to share," he said. Kailari stood up slowly, keeping her claws ready. She stepped into the clearing. The firelight lit her silver skin, her dark battlesuit, and her long black hair tied in braids. The human looked her up and down. "Didn't expect of Rel," he muttered. "Thought you guys abandoned this part of the jungle?" She didn't answer. She didn't speak human, but he kept talking anyway, like he didn't care. He gestured to the roasted meat. "Tastes like chicken, angry chicken." Kailar glanced at the corpse behind him. Its teeth were longer than her arms. This was no chicken. She sat down cautiously, eyes never leaving him. He nodded in approval. "Good, makes the food warmer." Then he picked up another piece and continued eating like this was normal. Like killing a god beast and roasting it was just a part of his day. Kailari sat silently, her mind racing. Who was this man? Why was he here? How had he survived what none of her people could? And most terrifying of all, ... what else could he kill? Kailari didn't blink. She watched every move the human made. He chewed the roasted meat slowly, like he had all the time in the world. His face stayed calm, relaxed, like he was sitting by a small campfire on some peaceful farm, not in the most dangerous jungle in the galaxy. The apex predator's huge body still lay behind him. Its flesh was sliced carefully, its skull cracked with perfect aim. Its thick black hide hung over a sharp rock like a trophy. No burns, no poison. This wasn't luck. This was skill. Kailari narrowed her eyes. Who was he? The man suddenly looked at her and spoke in his strange human tongue again. "You're still scared of me?" She didn't respond, but her eyes said, "Everything good," he added with a smirk. "Means you're smart." Kailari knew a few human words from training manuals. Not enough to speak, but enough to guess what he meant. And even if she didn't understand the words, she understood. His presence, this man was dangerous, and yet, he had shown her kindness. She glanced at the meat near her. It was fresh, cooked. Her stomach growled loudly. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. Her mission was never supposed to be this long. He heard her belly growl and gave a low chuckle. "Ahead, I don't bite." Kailari looked at him again. Was this a trap? But she didn't care anymore. Hunger beat fear. She reached out slowly, picked up the chunk of meat with her clawed hand, sniffed it once, then took a small bite. The taste was strong, smoky, but not bad. Warm juices filled her mouth. She chewed, swallowed, and didn't realize how much she needed this. The human kept eating, not saying anything more. Just fire, chewing, and silence. But in her mind, Kailari was full of questions. How had he killed the predator? What weapons did he use? How did he not get ripped apart? Was he alone? Were more humans nearby? She looked at his gear. A broken plasma rifle rested near him, useless. His knife was long and curved, but old. It looked handmade. She noticed something else. A deep bite mark on his arm, wrapped in cloth. The predator had hurt him, but not enough to stop him. Her people would have bled out in minutes. He had survived. He had fought. And he had won. Kailari had seen brave warriors in her tribe. But even they didn't go near the apex predator. Not unless they had a full hunting team, drones, and traps. But this human, he walked into the beast's den with nothing. And walked out with dinner. The human leaned back, tossing a bone into the flames. He spoke again. "You're probably wondering why I'm here?" Kailari looked at him sharply. He was reading her thoughts. A crass landed. "Ship's dead. Crew's dead. I'm the last one." So he was alone. Stranded, been surviving here for 3 months. Beast got my friend last week. So, I got it back. Kailari understood more than she expected. His gestures, his voice. The way he pointed to the stars, to the ship badge on his chest. It all made sense now. 3 months, alone, on this planet. Impossible. She stared at him with something new in her heart. Respect. He picked up his knife and began carving a piece of predator bone into a sharp spear tip. "You know," he said casually, "I've met Vrel before. Always sneaky, always fast, but never friendly." Kailari tilted her head. He wasn't wrong. "You're the first one who didn't try to shoot me on sight." She stayed silent. But she didn't feel like his enemy anymore. The fire crackled between them, and for the first time, Kailari noticed something deeper. The human wasn't just fearless, he was also tired. His eyes, strong and alert, still carried the weight of someone who had seen too much death. Maybe he was a killer. Maybe he was a survivor. Maybe he was both. But one thing was clear. He feared nothing, not beasts, not pain, not death. Kylari stood up slowly and pointed toward the north. A long way off was a cave, safe, hidden, and dry. A place where she had stored supplies. She looked back at him and gestured for him to follow. He raised an eyebrow. "You offering me a guide?" She didn't respond. He grabbed the meat, slung the hide over his shoulder, picked up his knife, and walked toward her. "Fine," he said. "You lead, I'll cook." Kylari didn't smile, but something in her chest felt warm. For the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid in the jungle, because now she walked beside the one thing scarier than the predator: a human. The jungle at night was a beast of its own. Strange sounds echoed from every direction, low growls, insect screeches, rustling trees that didn't move with wind, but with something crawling. On Dronus 9, the darkness itself felt alive. Kylari moved fast, her feet silent against the soft moss. Behind her, the human followed, steady and calm, dragging the predator's hide across his shoulder. He didn't ask questions. He didn't panic. His steps were heavy, but sure, and somehow it comforted her. She glanced back. His face was half-shadowed, but his eyes were clear, sharp, always watching. Still, he hadn't told her his name. She thought about giving hers, but the Vrel didn't share names so easily. Not until a bond was made. After an hour of walking, they reached the cave. It wasn't big, but it was safe. Hidden behind thick vines and a wall of roots. Inside, Kylari had supplies: dried food, filtered water, and energy packs. She moved some rocks aside and lit a small glowstone, brightening the space with soft green light. The human crouched near the wall, looking around. "Nice place," he said. For a death planet, she didn't answer. Instead, she tossed him a small packet of dried roots. He sniffed it, made a face, and tossed it aside. "I'll stick to my meat." She watched as he unrolled the predator's hide and began cleaning it with the blade of his knife. His hands worked with precision. Fast, smooth, experienced. This man had done this before many times. He looked up at her and asked something she didn't expect. "Why didn't you run?" She tilted her head. "When you saw me eating that monster," he said, "you could have run back to your tribe. Told them a crazy human was here, but you didn't." She didn't move for a while, then slowly pointed. To herself, then to him. Then held up 2 fingers. 2 alone. He understood. Ah, so we're both stranded freaks now. She didn't know the word freak, but the way he smiled told her he didn't mean it with hate. He wiped his blade on the predator's fur and sat down beside the fire. "I used to think we were the toughest species in the stars," he said. "Then I came here and nearly died every day." He picked up a sharp piece of bone, twirled it between his fingers. "But you know what scared me the most?" I asked. Kylari blinked. The silence. No voices, no friends, just the jungle. Watching, waiting. Kylari slowly sat down across from him. The fire crackled softly between them. There, under the glowstone and firelight, the 2 strangers shared something powerful: not language, not culture, but loneliness. He took a bite of his cooked meat and stared at her. "I'll make you a deal," he said. "You help me survive this place. Guide me back to my ship pore. What's left of Itand, I'll feed you, protect you, and kill anything that tries to eat us." Kylari raised an eyebrow. She understood parts of that. Enough, he held out a hand. "Deal?" She looked at his hand for a long moment. It was scarred, rough, human. So different from her own clawed fingers. But it was a hand that had defeated death. She reached out, tanned, touched it. Deal. The fire popped as if sealing the agreement from that moment. Something shifted. They weren't just strangers anymore. They had a bond. A silent promise. Kailari stood up and opened one of her supply bags. She pulled out a glowing map slate and placed it on the ground. It showed the region caves, cliffs, ruins, and the zone marked as forbidden. The human leaned over. "What's that?" he asked, pointing at the forbidden zone. She tapped it, then pointed to herself, then him, then the word again. "You want us to go there?" She nodded. "Why?" She made the shape of a ship with her hands and mimicked fire crashing to the ground. The human's eyes widened. "My ship." She nodded. "Again, you know where it is?" Kailari gave a short nod. She had seen the crash weeks ago. She had avoided it, like Alvrel did when something fell from the sky. But now, it was important. The human stood slowly, pacing. If the cums are still there, if the battery core wasn't destroyed, ... He turned toward her with fire in his eyes. "We might actually get off this rock." Kailari didn't smile, but her heart beat faster. For the first time in many cycles. There was hope, but then came the sound. A low howl, echoing, deep, hungry, close. Both of them froze. The human grabbed his bone blade. Kailari pulled her plasma spike. The jungle wasn't happy. The firelight flickered, and they both knew something was coming. The cave fell silent. Kailari and the human stood still, their weapons ready. The low howl that had echoed moments ago was unlike anything she had heard before, not a predator she knew. Not the apex beast the human had already killed. This was something else. The human crouched slowly and whispered to himself, "That wasn't just a hunter. That was a pack call." Kailari didn't need to understand the words. Her instincts told her the same thing. They were being hunted. The jungle outside trembled. Branches cracked. Something large moved through the brush. No, many somethings. The ground beneath the cave vibrated slightly. Each step was heavy. Hungry Kailari switched off the glowstone and pressed her back to the cold wall. The fire flickered low. The human moved beside it and covered the flame with the predator's thick hide, darkening the space. Only faint orange glows remained between the gaps in the half-darkness. They watched the cave entrance together. Then came the eyes, 3 pairs, glowing yellow. Low to the ground, watching, waiting. Kailari's breath hitched. She recognized them, now the shadow hunters, night predators. Rare, fast. They moved in silence, attacked in packs, and only came when blood had already been spilled. They followed the scent of death. The apex predator's body must have drawn them. The human looked at Kailari. "You ever killed one of these?" She shook her head. "Me neither." But there was no time to plan. One of the creatures lunged fast. The human met it mid-air, his bone blade raised. It struck hard, driving deep into the beast's side. The creature screamed, a piercing sound that shook Kailari to her bones. Blood splashed across the cave floor, but the other 2 came in fast. Kailari moved like lightning, ducking under one, stabbing her plasma spike upward into its neck. It writhed, but she held steady. The kill was clean. The third one leaped for the human's back. He rolled, grabbed a sharp piece of firewood, and slammed it into the beast's face. It screeched and backed off, shaking. He stood, breathing hard. 2 were dead. 1 limped away. They didn't chase it. Not yet. Kailari touched her arm. Blood, but not deep. The human looked at his shoulder clawed, but not serious. "We're fine," he said between breaths. Then silence returned. But this time, it was tense. Kailari stepped toward the cave mouth. The jungle outside was alive now. Growls. Movement, dozens of footsteps circling. "More are coming," the human said. "It's a feeding chain. They smell the apex predator. They want what's left." She nodded slowly. He looked around the cave. This place won't hold if they all rush in. Kyla knelt and opened her gear bag. Inside, she pulled out a tiny distaff, kind used for beacon signals. But this one was special. It emitted repellent waves, a high-frequency sound that most jungle creatures hated. She activated it and tossed it into the fire. A low vibration filled the cave, the kind only hunters could feel in their bones. Outside, the creatures paused. Some growled and retreated. The human grinned. Clever girl. They both knew it wouldn't work forever. But it bought them time. Time to breathe. Time to think. Kyla sat near the cave wall and finally let her body relax. Her muscles ached. Her heart was still pounding. The human walked over, sat beside her, and dropped a water pack in her lap. She looked at it. Then at him. He gave a short nod. Drink. You saved my life. She took a sip, surprised by the cold. Then handed it back. He didn't drink, just looked up at the cave ceiling. 3 months on this planet, and tonight's the first time I didn't feel completely alone. Kyla stared at him. There was something raw in his voice. Not just survival pain. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small photo. Old, faded. To humans smiling him and another man. She leaned closer. He pointed to the other man. My brother. He died the first week. Kyla slowly lowered her eyes. She understood. She too had lost friends on hunts. Lost sisters in missions. The jungle took everything if you gave it time. He folded the photo and put it away. You don't talk much, he said. She tilted her head. But you fight well, smart, fast, brutal. He looked at her for a long moment. We make a good team. Kyla didn't respond, but she didn't disagree either. Outside, the jungle was still growling. But the beasts kept their distance for now. The cave had become something new, not just shelter. A bond, a battleground. A place where fear and fire became friendship. She looked at the human again, and for the first time, Kyla realized he wasn't just a survivor, he was a hunter of hunters. And if she stayed with him, she might just live to see the stars again. The jungle had never looked so dangerous. Kyla moved quickly through the thick undergrowth, leading the human along a narrow trail known only to the Vrel. It was hidden beneath twisting vines and roots. Often walked barefoot by hunters but never used by outsiders. Yet today, a human followed behind her. He walked in silence, carrying only his bone blade and a rolled hide of the apex predator he had slain. His eyes never blinked, never relaxed. He knew something was coming. Kyla could feel it too. They were returning to her village, to her people, and they were not going to be welcomed. She had sent a silent message ahead, using her wrist device 3 pulses. It meant returning, not alone, urgent. That was 2 days ago. They reached the cliffs by evening. Below them, nestled between stone and forest, was Vrelakar, the hidden village of the Vrel. Dome-shaped structures blended with nature. Spires rose like thorns into the sky. Fires glowed softly in carved-out hollows. The moment they stepped near the main path, horns blew. Kyla stopped. She could already see movement warriors running, blades in hand. The human didn't flinch. He stood still, his eyes scanning everything. Guess we're not getting a welcome dinner, he muttered. Kyla raised a hand. 3 warriors charged up, stopping just before her. Their eyes locked on the human. He must be restrained, shouted one. Another aimed a plasma spear at the human's chest. Kyla stepped between them and raised her voice. Stand down. He is under my protection. The warriors paused. One of them, her cousin, Relkan, looked furious. You bring this ... thing here. After what he's done, Kailari spoke calmly. He saved my life. He killed the apex beast. Relkin's eyes widened. He what? She pointed to the rolled hide on the human's back. He hunted it, alone. Murmurs spread among the gathering warriors. Some were shocked. Others looked afraid. Moments later, a deep voice boomed across the clearing. Bring them to the Grand Circle. The Elder Council had heard. The Grand Circle was where the Vrel judged outsiders and, sometimes, their own. Hundreds of Vrel stood around the raised stone platform. Elders in dark robes sat above, glowing staffs in their hands. At the center stood Kailari and the human. His predator hide was laid out on the stone floor like a trophy or an accusation. The High Elder, Morel, spoke first. You bring a human into our sacred grounds, the same species that caused the burning of the third moon. Kailari bowed slightly. He is not like the others. He has survived Dronus 9 for months. He has killed the beast. Moral's voice grew cold. That beast was sacred, a spirit of balance. Killing it without permission is blasphemy. The human finally spoke. His voice was calm, clear. It was going to kill me. I did what I had to do to live. Gasps echoed. Few Vrel had ever heard a human speak their language so well. Morale stared at him. You are bold, human. No, the man replied. I'm alive. There's a difference. Relkin stepped forward, face twisted in anger. He must face the trial of return. Let the jungle decide if he's worthy. Kailari shouted. No. He's already passed every test this world could throw at him. He killed the one thing that even our strongest fear. Morale raised a hand to silence her. He shall face the trial. Not as a punishment, but as a chance. Kailari stepped. Back eyes filled with worry. The human asked, what kind of trial? Moral stood. At dawn, you will enter the hollow pit. 2 shadow beasts will be released. No weapons, no help. If you survive, you may stay. If not, your bones will return to the jungle. The human nodded slowly. So I fight. Again. Kailari turned to him. Her voice shook. You don't have to do this. We can run. He looked at her. And leave your people thinking I'm a coward? You're not. Then let them see it. That night, Kailari sat outside his small hut. The village had allowed him shelter for one night. No one spoke to her, not even her friends. She was now seen as the one who brought a predator. But deep down, she didn't care, because she knew the truth. The human wasn't just strong. He was different, brutal, yes, but kind, smart, loyal. She watched the stars and whispered, please don't let them kill you. Inside the hut, the human wrapped the hide around himself like a blanket. He touched the photo in his pocket. His brother's smile stared back. You better be watching, bro, because this one's for both of us. Dawn came fast, the hollow pit waited. 2 beasts. 1 man. No escape. And above, hundreds of alien eyes watched, waiting to see if the human would survive again, or become the hunted this time. The hollow pit was silent, surrounded by stone walls, thick vines, and ancient markings. It had not been used in many seasons. It was a place of legend, a place where only the bravest Vrel had walked in, and where most never walked out. But today was not a Vrel standing at the center of the pit. It was a human. He stood shirtless, barehanded, the sun rising behind him. His skin was marked with scars, his arms tense, and his eyes calm. Not cocky, not scared, focused. High above, Kailari watched from the ledge, heart pounding. Around her, the entire village stood in silence. Some whispered. Others hoped he would fail. She didn't care what they thought. She just wanted him to survive. From the opposite side of the pit, two heavy gates creaked open. The beasts were coming. First, silence. Then, a low growl. Then, they stepped into the light. Twin rackery, dark-skinned creatures. Long bodies, thick tails, and jaws filled with hooked teeth. Faster than any hunter, stronger than most machines. Each one moved low and slow, eyes glowing yellow. Already tasting the air for blood. The human didn't move. One beast hissed and charged. He sidestepped, quick. Clean, the creature flew past him and slammed into the stone wall. But the second beast was smarter. It came from behind. Kailari gasped. The man turned just in time to duck. The Rokori's claw slashed across his shoulder, tearing skin. He grunted but didn't fall. He rolled, grabbed a loose stone, and slammed it into the creature's snout. The beast roared. The crowd above flinched. Moral, the High Elder, narrowed his eyes. He's learning. Down in the pit, the human was breathing harder now. Blood trickled down his arm. But he stood tall. The first rackery came again, this time slower, stalking. The human stepped backward. Toward the broken wooden support beam, near the edge of the pit. Kailari's eyes widened. He had a plan. The second beast lunged first. He dodged left, grabbed the beam, and with all his strength, snapped it free. Splinters flew. It wasn't a proper weapon, but it was sharp enough. The first rackery circled again. Now he had reach. Now he had a chance. It charged. He waited. Waited, and then struck hard. Straight through its eye. The crowd gasped. The creature screamed, thrashed, then fell. Dead. One remained. It snarled, slower now. As if realizing its prey was not weak, Kailari gripped the stone ledge tightly. Her claws dug into the surface. The human crouched, holding the broken beam in both hands. Body shaking, the beast circled. It jumped. He was ready. They clashed Midera's beam to its throat. Its claws raked across his chest. They rolled across the dirt, struggling, roaring. Teeth snapping inches from his face. He drove the beam deeper. The rackery screamed, then silence. The human shoved it off and collapsed, gasping. Two dead beasts. One standing man. The hollow pit was still. Then came the sound, a roar. But not from the beasts, from the crowd. Even those who hated him now stared in awe. Kalar felt her knees weaken. She wasn't sure if she wanted to cry, scream, or leap down into the pit. He had done the impossible again. Moral stood slowly, raising his staff. This man is not prey. He is not outsider. He is hunter. The warriors around Kailari lowered their weapons. Some bowed their heads, and then Kailari ran. She climbed down into the pit, ignoring the warnings. The gasps. She ran across the blood-soaked ground, straight to the human who still lay breathing beside the second Rokori's body. He looked up at her, weak but smiling. Told you, I don't die easy. Kailari knelt beside him. She didn't speak. Instead, she touched his chest gently, right over his heart. A Vrel gesture, one that meant, you are no longer stranger. He reached up with shaking fingers and touched her hand. And in that moment, beast blood still warm around them, pain still fresh, and breath still short, something powerful passed between them. Not just respect. Not just survival. A connection. High above, the sun rose higher, shining on the blood and dust below. But it didn't matter, because in the hollow pit, a human had earned his place. For 3 full suns, the human could not walk. Kailari stayed by his side in the healer's hut, watching over him as his wounds slowly closed. She brought him food, water, even jokes, though he didn't understand most of them. He smiled anyway. The warriors who once hated him now passed by silently, nodding their heads in respect. No one laughed, no one doubted, because now they all knew. He wasn't just strong, he was unstoppable. Even Morale, the High Elder, visited once. He placed his staff beside the human's bed and spoke in the old tongue. He has done what no Rel dared. Let his name be remembered. Kailari looked at the human then. He didn't understand the words. But when she translated them simply, "They honor you," now he only nodded and whispered, "I didn't do it for them." "Then who?" she asked quietly. He looked at her. "For you." Her chest tightened. She had never expected a human to care for her, especially not like this. But this one, he was different. He was hers now. And she was his. By the sixth sun, he stood again, weak, limping. But standing, the village gathered for a special event, one that hadn't happened in generations. The Vrel honored a non-Vrel with hunter's rights. They placed beads carved from predator bone around his neck, gave him food from the sacred root gardens. Warriors bowed as he walked past. Kailari walked beside him, her head high. Relkan, her cousin who had once called him a threat, stepped forward and said, "I was wrong about you, human." The man raised an eyebrow. "You were?" Relkan chuckled. "You're not a threat. You're worse. You're a problem." They all laughed, even Kailari. The tension had broken. The tribe had changed, and the human was the reason. Later that night, by the same fire where they once shared predator meat, Kailari and the human sat again, this time as equals. She spoke slowly. In broken human language she had practiced for days. "You, stay here, or go home." He looked up at the stars. "I miss Earth, but what's left for me there?" She didn't speak. He looked at her now. "What about you? Would you leave this place?" Kailari didn't blink. Not alone. He nodded slowly. Silence fell between them again. But it was not empty. It was full of feelings that didn't need words. After a moment, the human reached into his pocket again. The photo of his brother. He stared at it. Then, to Kailari's surprise, he burned it in the fire. She leaned forward. He didn't answer at first. Then he said, "Because I kept looking back. But now I want to look forward, with you." Kailari felt something warm rise in her chest. Not just heat. Hope. He was choosing to stay. With her weeks past, the human helped repair broken tech around the village. He taught Kailari's people how to make stronger weapons from simple things, metal shards, predator teeth, bone. He taught some young warriors how to fight without fear, and he learned to, Kailari taught him the Vrel way of walking silently, of listening to the jungle's heartbeat, of hearing danger before it arrived. Together, they became more than survivors. They became protectors. One evening, a scout ran into the village, shouting, "Ship in the sky." Everyone gathered to watch as a Terran ship hovered above the jungle. It was a rescue crew. The human's beacon, powered by village energy, had finally sent a signal. The man stood at the edge of the village as the ship hovered lower, ready to land. But he didn't step forward. Kailari stood beside him, quiet. A voice came from the ship speaker. "Lieutenant Chase Ward, we've come for you." He didn't move. Kailari whispered, "Go." He shook his head. "I already chose." The villagers were confused. Why would a man give up his own kind, his own world? But Kailari understood. He had found a new world, a new people, a new life. And as the ship lifted off, its engines roaring above the trees, Kailari placed her hand on his chest again. This time, he placed his hand over hers. The tribe had feared him. The jungle had tested him. But now, he was the one they couldn't ignore. Not because of strength, but because he reminded them all what real courage looked like.